Welcome back to the Adventures of the Monad, which will look at life, the universe, and everything. My name is Kazim Kamal-ur-Rahim. In this series, I ask the question, where do we come from, who are we, and where are we going? I post one presentation a week. Please subscribe to my website and hit the bell icon for notifications of future videos. You can also leave comments and join in forum discussions on my website. In my series of presentations so far, I have sought to present a hylozoic framework that seeks to allow the seeker on the path to get a better understanding of life, the universe, and everything. With the concept and tools that have been laid out, a series of criteria can be used to examine any situation, event, or theory and match it to the three aspects of all existence in the universe. These three aspects I call the Holy Trinity, and went on to point out that they are to be found everywhere and relate to everything. What is equally important is that they do not exist in isolation. You cannot have motion, consciousness, or matter appearing anywhere by itself. All three elements of these fundamental aspects of existence are always present. This has now brought me to a stage of this series of presentations where I wish now to start to speak about reincarnation. Throughout my life, if anyone approached me and asked, what are the most important aspects of life that underpin all other aspects? I would say reincarnation and karma. For me, if these two concepts were taken on board and understood, life made sense to me. Without them, life was A, not fair, and B, pointless. To date, I have talked about the monad whizzing up and down the envelopes of incarnation, and also going in and out of physical manifestation. I will now focus on the concepts around reincarnation more thoroughly. I wish to start by saying, life cannot be extinguished. The monad is indestructible. Period. But it is there, coming from somewhere else. It is made of matter, is in motion, and therefore must be conscious in some way or other. But what is it trying to do? It is trying to expand its consciousness. To do this, it must go to school. This starts when the monad first manifests into the universe from the antiverse. It is called a one atom and is found on the first plane of matter. From this lofty perch, it begins to evolve through a further 48 planes of matter, which, following the Holy Trinity, must be planes of consciousness as well. Finally, it reaches the lowest, the 49th plane of matter. Once there, it starts to evolve. By the time it reaches the third plane of matter consciousness, it has gained free will. This is us. We are on the third plane of matter and have evolved into the fourth kingdom of nature. So, what then is reincarnation? Reincarnation is the concept that our consciousness continues when our physical body ceases to function. I wish to pause here and point out what many esotericists in the past have consistently concluded. Somehow, being physical one minute and not the next means that consciousness is a state that exists by itself. I am confident by now that you do not hold such misguided concepts. I have committed chapter and verse to the concept of the monad being a single one atom that is lodged in the 43 one permanent atom on the highest plane in the cosmic physical kingdom. It cannot enter the cosmic physical kingdom as it is too energetic. Thanks to the kind assistance of the Devic kingdom, a series of triad units are constructed for the monad to focus its attention through. The monad is always physical. It has to be. What it achieves by focusing its attention in the 6 lower planes of matter, is to expand its consciousness. To the monad, an incarnation is like a day at the office. When that day ends, the monad departs its physical etheric body. Think of this as taking off your overcoat. After a certain period of time, it discards its emotional body. I have talked about this process in previous presentations. Think of this as akin to taking off your clothes. Finally, the monad takes its underwear off when it departs its mental envelope and returns to its causal body. I call this our soul. It is now completely naked and unadorned. There it sleeps for a prescribed period before waking up again, getting dressed, and going back to work. There you have it. Reincarnation in a nutshell. What is the first question you usually get asked if you put forward any concept relating to reincarnation? If we have lived before, why can we not remember our previous lives? You know the answer to this, don't you? After each incarnation, the subtle bodies, the etheric, the emotional, and the mental, dissolve in sequence over the course of many years. The result of this action is that the pathways to the memories of that incarnation are lost. At the start of the next incarnation, a new set of subtle bodies are formed. These new subtle bodies are not connected to the ones used in the previous lifetime. If we lose the identity of our previous incarnation, how do we manage to evolve our consciousness? This conundrum is solved by the presence of a portion of our causal body that surrounds the 3 lower envelopes of incarnation. This is known as the persona and usually consists about 5% of our total causal mass. Clearly, there is something special about this causal body. It is something that was given to us when we started our journey into the 4th, the human kingdom, by a group of solar devas, the head of which I have called our guardian angel. This envelope comprises 2 molecules and 1 permanent atom and is found on the 2nd triad. We keep this envelope for the entirety of our journey through the 4th kingdom of nature. What we are and what we have achieved in our evolutionary journey is linked to the contents of our causal envelope. Why then, in an incarnation, do we not have the totality of our achievements so far? The reason is, we only incarnate with about 5% of the contents of this body in any incarnation. This can increase and finally does change dramatically when we reach enlightenment I3. At this time, the causal and the mental bodies fuse into one unit. Alas, this happy state has not arrived for most of us. Consequently, we incarnate with no or very few memories of our previous visits to Earth. Our lower causal body, known as the persona, contains causal matter like its big brother. This is known as soul essence. However, as this is only part of a much bigger memory bank, our memories, knowledge, and abilities in any particular incarnation are incoherent. Our conscious mind does not know the mental pathways to retrieve these memories. Enlightened souls I3, as they incarnate with all their causal matter, have what is known as continuity of consciousness. This does not just mean they remember all their past incarnations and the lessons learned in them. It means they are aware of what they have done between these incarnations as well. The rest of us just fall asleep at some point in our journey back to the higher causal body. We wake up again at the same point where we went unconscious on our way back into a new incarnation. The table shows whether a monad is conscious or unconscious in each of its subtle bodies. This is linked to the 5 levels of development I have spoken of. I wish to highlight from this table that the term semi-conscious refers to subjective rather than objective consciousness. I have previously explained that a monad is always subjectively conscious half a plane ahead of where it is objectively conscious. I have often stated that most of humanity incarnated today is focused in its 48-1 emotional atom. This results in both 2 community and 3 cultured souls being subjectively conscious on the mental plane and unconscious in their causal bodies. The 1 young soul effectively passes from the physical etheric world straight into the causal body. For the 5 enlightened soul, it is business as usual, no matter where it finds itself on the lowest 3 planes of matter. I have spoken about the descent and ascent of the monad in its journey in and out of incarnation. I now wish to talk about the whole process, showing it on a schematic. Starting from the causal body, the monad is asleep in this structure, in all but one of its stages of development. You don't need me to give you the explanation why. Notice you have 4 red dots in the envelope. The top one is the 47-1 permanent atom. Note how there is a vertical blue line extending past this atom. Where is it going? Remember, the monad is actually embedded in the 43-1 permanent atom and only focuses its attention into the triadic structure below. If you are not conscious between incarnations, then your monad is presently focused in one of the other 3 red dots represented in this diagram. These dots represent your 47-4 permanent molecule and your 48-1 and 49-1 permanent atoms. This is where they are stored between incarnations. They contain your traits and habits that you acquire through all your incarnations in the 4th, the human kingdom. In truth, they contain all your experiences all the way back to when you were in the mineral kingdom. I wonder what traits and habits you picked up being a rock. Look down this column and you will see an orange circle. This is present on the etheric plane. It represents the etheric template on which the physical body will form in due course. Conception has occurred and the incarnation begins. This is a 2-pronged event. Staying at the bottom of the second column, you see it develop into a dumbbell shape. The lower lobe is the physical organic body developing in the womb. It is, however, twinned permanently with the etheric envelope. It should be noted that this is not your etheric envelope. It is generated by the building devas who are constructing your body. They are following instructions that are given to them by the lords of karma. The resulting template is based on your karma and destiny to be experienced in the coming incarnation. At the other end of the column, you see the causal body forming a dumbbell shape itself. This is a piece of the causal body breaking off to begin its descent into incarnation. This secondary envelope is called the lower causal body or persona. At this time, it contains the 3 permanent units that will go on to sit at the top of their respective envelopes. Notice how the blue line between the 41 permanent atom and the other 3 atoms and molecule is broken. This is because this connection is effectively not active until the material bridge is built at enlightenment I3. The third column shows the development of the mental body within the envelope of the lower causal body. The 47-4 permanent molecule takes its position at the top of this envelope. Contained within this sac are also the 2 lower permanent atoms that have yet to form their own envelopes. Remember, it is not the atoms that do this, but the devas that are orchestrating this whole process. In a previous presentation, I gave you the names of each class of these devas. It is they that function on each plane of matter and control all operations that occur on that plane. At this time, the fetus is merrily subdividing within its mother's womb. Note, however, these 2 prongs of development are completely separate at present. The fetus is an organic etheric event that is controlled by the devas, that have no links to the monad. The building of the mental body is controlled by other devas that are under the instruction of the solar devas, and theoretically the monad. I say theoretically because we are a long way off taking charge of this process yet. I mean a really long way off. The fourth column shows the development of the emotional body. Notice how it is enveloped within the mental and the lower causal bodies. The 48-1 permanent atom is the focus of the development of this body. In column 5, you see the emergence of the etheric body, forming around the 49-1 permanent atom. Below it, in the womb of the mother, you have the other etheric template around which the fetus is forming. These are two completely separate structures at present. What you are looking at here in this column is what is termed as our principal bodies. Each one of these envelopes is part of us. Why? Because they are controlled by one of our permanent atoms. The fetus is not us yet, and effectively never is. It is just a reality suit that the monad dons to allow it to experience objective reality in the lowest of the 49 planes of matter. The sharp-eyed amongst you may have noticed that the lower causal envelope has no permanent atomic or molecular structure controlling it. Does this make it a non-principal structure? Not quite. It is an extension of the higher causal body and will return to it at the end of the incarnation. At present, it contains a small fraction of the causal matter that the monad has accumulated over its preceding incarnations. These molecules form the basis of what is your personality. They are combined with your traits and habits that are stored in the lower permanent atoms and molecule. These are what go to make up your first self in an incarnation. The causal matter in the lower causal body picks up lessons learnt by the envelopes and transfers these back to the higher causal body at the end of an incarnation. Because there is no permanent storage unit in this envelope, the monad has no discrete memory of that particular persona. What it does have, however, are the lessons learnt from that incarnation. This is why it is so fruitless to identify with your persona as actually being you. It is not. It is just a character that the soul has concocted to help it work off karma, learn useful traits and habits, and hopefully not create too much new karma in the process. Finally, we have reached column 6. The 49-1 permanent etheric atom connects with the etheric template surrounding the fetus. This happens at the moment of birth. Note how the dumbbell structure of the physical etheric body is contained within a series of higher envelopes. I have shown this configuration to you repeatedly in my previous presentations. You potter along in your reality suit until it wears out, and then you die. Boo-hoo. I hope by now you get the general picture that what you think as yourself is not you at all. The loss of the worn-out reality suit is no great loss either. It was falling apart anyway, and you have 5 other envelopes to retreat to. This you do in an ordered manner. The incarnation process takes about 40 weeks. The disincarnation process takes hundreds of years. In column 7, you now see the physical organic body without its companion etheric structure. When this separation occurs, it begins to decay immediately. It just goes to show how vital the etheric body is to sustaining your life functions. In column 8, you see that the etheric body is also discarded. This happens almost immediately after physical death. It begins to decay, though not as rapidly as the physical body. The emotional body begins to decay next. This happens in molecular order, starting with the heaviest molecules first, 48-7, and working up to 48-2. The emotional body is discarded when the monad loses interest in the emotional world. I have discussed why this occurs in a previous presentation. Discarded subtle bodies have the ability to live on as elemental structures until they fully dissolve. These structures retain some traits and memories of the previous owner. These elementals can be temporarily vivified if a medium tries to get in touch with what they think is the soul of the departed persona. I would say on average, you may be able to contact the actual persona for the first 25 years after death. That is, unless they are not otherwise engaged with ridding themselves of their lower pesky elemental essences. Remember, this transition is called hell and purgatory in some religions. The mental body slowly decays around the 47.7 to 47.4 molecules. By this time, the monad has sorted out all the lessons it has learnt in that particular incarnation. It then transfers the relevant information to the lower causal molecules. The mental body is finally discarded, and the monad, which itself is focused in the first triad, unites with the other half of its causal body. Again, when I say it does, it is in fact the devas that do this. In the united causal body, the monad now rests. It is unconscious, as it has only gained objective consciousness in the first triad at present. How long it stays here depends on a host of variables. However, eventually it has no option but to begin the whole cycle over again. It begins its 40-week descent back into a new reality suit that has been prepared for it. It now has a new persona and new mental, emotional, and etheric envelopes. I will leave it there for today and return to look at the time frame between incarnations in my next presentation. If you wish to read a transcript of the presentation or leave comments, links to my website are in the description box below. Thank you.